This Week in Startups is brought to you by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And Squarespace. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Enter offer code TWIST at checkout to get 10% off.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. This is the show where we talk about technology, startups, big companies, small companies, and people building products and services that make the world a little bit better. With me, Iain Thomas of The Register. Welcome back to the program.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I love being on podcasts with you. You and I are like very similar in that we are cynical and we have deep.
We're not cynical. We're just realists who haven't been proved right yet.
Exactly. But you take a certain approach in your writing that I would describe as pragmatic and questioning.
That's what we like to do. If you just accept things at face value, then you're basically just a stenographer. So you've got to dig deeper into these things.
Right. And these tech companies, they tend to spin things a bit.
A bit.
Once in a while, they'll spin something.
They're like a crazed ballerina on acid. I mean,
it's really crazy. They really do try to make things sound incredibly grandiose, and you're like, but you just took the headphone jack out. It's like,
yeah, I know. It's all about leveraging your synergies in a proactive manner, in which sort of exemplifies those core goals of the company.
Yes, converging on your mission statement. All right, and with us also Austin Smith, who is the general manager of Inside.com. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
Things are going very well at Inside.
So far, so good.
So far, you've been with me for a year.
That's right.
Grinding away at email newsletters. Give the audience an idea, a taste of the progress we've made.
Yeah, so when I joined up with Jason about a year ago, Inside.com had one email newsletter, the Inside Daily Brief. It's kind of a roundup of all of the most interesting news of the day, and about 14 or 15,000 subscribers then. And we had this idea of building a network of email newsletters. And so since then, we've built it out into sort of a platform. We have 20 email newsletters publishing kind of a presidential daily brief of all the most interesting news in various verticals, things like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, virtual reality, drones, and then some that are company specific like Amazon, Facebook, Snap, and things like that. And we now have 270,000 subscribers actually across the network. So quite a bit of growth, and we still have a long way to go.
And this year we're going to launch one a week. I set that crazy edict.
That's right.
What's it like to work for, I mean, you're on the show here, and I can't stop you from saying, what's it like to work for a guy like me? Is it a little bit crazy? Like you wake up going, I wonder what Jason's going to say today? Or does it seem like a more methodical approach? Because you probably had an expectation coming in.
Yeah.
When you look at it now and you're talking to your wife at the end of the day, or you're talking to a friend and say, hey, what's it like to work with Jason? What do you say?
Yeah, so I would say I did not know what to expect beforehand. I think I feel like we have a pretty good working relationship. I think you definitely are always pushing to go faster and whether it's like negotiating pricing for a software we're purchasing or anything else, it's like always kind of pushing harder. But I think that kind of has been really helpful for me because, so I think, I don't know. I think we have it. It's pretty fun. You have a lot of the sort of vision, but I get to work with you on strategy and vision and where we're going with this.
Yeah.
And now we've built up a whole team, and I feel
pretty great.
Yeah.
It feels pretty great. I think we're going to make this into a very big company.
I think so too.
All right. So I'm going to have my good friend Austin from Inside.com read the news like Lon used to do in the old days. You ready for this, Austin? These are big shoes to fill. The Twist superfans were big fans of the Lon Harris and Tyler Crowley days.
And I told you I was reviewing old Lon Harris footage last night. So
oh boy, so Lon always did a great job reading the news. So you're going to read the news, and then Iain and I are going to respond to it. Okay, what's the first story in the news?
First story is your internet history is on sale to the highest bidder. U.S. Congress votes to shred ISP privacy rules. So Yeah. So, Ian, you wrote a story about this. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, there are many great challenges facing this country which the Trump administration wants to deal with. And one of the first of these was apparently the right to sell your entire browsing history from your whatever your ISP feels the need to. It was a straight-up party vote. Republicans voted en masse for it. Democrats voted against it. And it went through both the Senate and Congress and the House of Representatives, Senate, I was speaking to some ISPs over here, and they were expecting the Senate fight to be a lot tougher, but it actually got through okay. The House of Representatives just waved this one through with very little debate. They tried to get it through without actually on a voice vote only, so that people wouldn't know who had actually voted for it. And subsequent investigations have shown the phenomenal amount of campaign contributions which went to the politicians involved. This is the most important thing they had to deal with, apparently, which is reducing everyone's privacy for money.
And it's very interesting. So what they're basically saying is if you're Verizon, you can watch the traffic through somebody's Fios or cable modem or Time Warner, whoever it is, Comcast. And when you see their requests going through, you could say, oh, this person read an article from the New York Times, or they read an article from Engadget or the Register, and put them into buckets. Then they can sell to advertiser all of the people who have visited Engadget and the Register and say, hey, these are tech people.
Yep.
Or people who visited more than 10 times. So what really happens in a way is this really screws over the publishers of those individual brands, because their audiences can then be resold without the person having to give the money directly to Engadget or to, say, TechCrunch or the Register, whoever. So that's one thing. The second thing that's particularly disturbing is they can build an entire dossier on who's in the house, and you would know by the MAC address or the IP address, I'm assuming.
By the IP, I think. And basically, if you've got, a whole bunch of traffic within a house and say half of it is going to, Peppa Pig sites for children, or half of it is going for sort of hardcore pornography, then you've got a pretty good idea that there are a couple of kids in the house. There's a husband who's in a fairly unhappy marriage. And, it's these kind of bandings that they can build up. Now, Comcast and AT&T have said, we do not sell personal browsing histories. But coming back to what we were saying about how, the industry uses weasel words, technically they're not saying, you want to buy, the traffic for, I don't know, George W. Bush. They're not going to sell your individual traffic, but they'll group you down into nice little ad settings so that your data can be sold off, and you're paying them to do this.
Incredible. So you pay them $100 for the privilege of having them break your privacy. Now, if you have a VPN, a virtual private network, all of your content would be protected going through, and they wouldn't be able to see the HTTP requests.
They wouldn't. However, the VPN provider would.
Right.
And there are an awful lot of very dodgy VPN providers out there.
There are.
I mean, if basically any free VPN provider I wouldn't trust. The one exception might be the one they've got built into the Opera browser.
Right. The Opera browser out of Oslo, Norway, has a VPN built into it. But it's free.
Yeah.
So it's slow.
Indeed. And then you can get faster connections through private providers. But again, you're trusting that provider with all of your network traffic. So I mean, it's there. That is one way around it. The other is to use Tor,
which is unbelievably slow and difficult to use.
Exactly. I mean, trying to get
and
my
then
mother
that
to
puts you
use
in the bucket of pedophiles and people doing Silk Road style, selling of
it's instant
drugs
red
or whatever.
flag. It's just like, what have they got to hide?
Exactly.
So I mean, you've got that.
Do you use a VPN?
Depends. When I'm traveling, I do. For my home internet use, I don't.
When you're traveling, why do you use a VPN?
Well,
I mean, I know why, but I want the listeners.
Well, if I'm on an aircraft and I'm not using a VPN, then that data can be sniffed by pretty much anyone. If I'm using a public Wi-Fi spot, that can be sniffed by anyone. If I'm visiting another company and using their network, I've got to trust that they're not sniffing my traffic.
Right.
So it's a basic privacy protection. It's just one of those things that you really should be running at any one time.
Austin, do you use one? A VPN?
I don't. I probably should, though.
I use one. Not on my mobile phone, but I would like to put it on my mobile phone. I'm a little concerned about this because what I think is going to happen is because this data is being stored, I think that extortion is going to start happening. I think people's browser histories are going to start being stolen by the Russians and other people. And they're going to say, hey, you search for these things. We have it. We're now going to go after you and try to extort money from you. what do they call it? When they get a video of a president
Blackmail.
compromising
Compromising
Compromat.
photos. Yeah.
Compromat.
Okay, yes.
Compromat, like what they got on the president,
Right.
apparently.
But so the other piece of this is with sites that don't use HTTPS encryption,
Right.
they can actually read what you are typing into the site.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So it goes beyond just the fact that you were on the page and to things that you
Yeah.
might have chatted or typed
I mean,
into
if
chat
you've got
boxes or
HTTPS
whatever
set
else.
up, then they can't tell what pages you're drilling down to within that domain, but they can see how long you were at that domain. But you're right, if they're just using HTTP, well, hey, why on earth are you visiting them?
And I looked at it, some of these businesses, because I think it's going to move from the fringe, from people who are trying to protect themselves because they're doing something fishy, to people who just generally would like their privacy, as we like to say, across the pond, Ian. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
I want to protect your privacy here. It is going to happen that everything you've written, everything in your email, everything in your DMs, everything in your messages are going to get hacked and exposed. I don't know if you guys ever get these emails from Have You Been Pawned?
Oh, yes.
But I'm constantly getting them because
a great
I've signed
website.
up for so many services over 2 decades. And it's a really cool service. Have You Been Pawned? I don't know the exact URL.
It's haveyoubeenpawned.com.
Haveyoubeenpawned.com. They just email you and they're like, oh, by the way, we found the hack for this service. Your email was in there. If you had a password in there, the password's probably compromised. And if you use the same password across sites, you're going to be compromised. I think this is going to become a real business opportunity. I think there's a large number of people who would pay, call it $5 a month, $50 a year, to have a VPN that just worked across their computer. And what I like about it is I like to change to Japan or the UK or South America and see how the web looks from other things. And that's really interesting. So I was checking our SEO at Inside, and I just changed my VPN to Germany and whatever, and I just tried to see if like Inside Amazon actually came up. And in some cases it did, in some cases it didn't. But it's really fun. And then if you are the UK, I believe, the BBC, the entire archive is on something called iPlayer.
iPlayer, it's one thing I've written to mates at the BBC saying, look, do an international license so I can get access to iPlayer because all their TV's on there. It's great. You can get the radio around the world without the need for a VPN. For those tempted to get a VPN and actually try and log into to iPlayer, however, the BBC are getting a lot smarter about blocking stuff. So
they know the VPN's IP addresses.
They know the VPNs are out there, and they are taking active steps to block that traffic, which it doesn't think originates from the UK.
Because I did this actually. I was just trying to test it, and I went to the iPlayer because they have like one of the interesting things about the BBC is I guess they own this tremendous archive of like, people in the 60s or 70s playing music. So I'm really into Dire Straits, and like you just like search the iPlayer for Dire Straits, you find all these obscure Mark Knopfler.
Grey Whistle Test and those sort of programs. Yes.
Yeah, and they were just on different times, and it's pretty amazing. But I think a VPN, for people who are in China, they use VPNs and these kind of things. In order to read the New York Times, you use Twitter. But Americans, we've been spoiled because we don't really have censorship. What we do have is this massive privacy issue.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I'm not too worried because my ISP has vowed not to use this data. But I mean,
which ISP is that?
Sonic.
Oh, Sonic. Yeah, that's very popular here in San Francisco.
Yeah, is
that the wireless one? You put something on your roof or something?
Monkey Brains, you're thinking
Monkey Brains is the one everybody keeps talking about here.
That's another really good. That's a local business.
You use that, right?
Yeah, I use it. Yep.
What does that cost, that Monkey Brains?
Our whole building is wired, so 3 units, and I think we pay $60. I know I pay $20 a month for it.
You pay $20 a month for internet access?
Great.
No
What kind of
TV.
speed?
Fast. I could try to pull it up and
100
see,
megabit or something?
something like that. Yeah.
For $20?
Yeah,
But you have to have
$20.
an antenna on your roof?
It's like sort of a dish that's on the roof, and it has to have a clear line of sight to the top of Mount Sutro, so they're beaming the internet.
Mount Sutro is in San Francisco. Is that the one with the radio tower on it?
That's right. Yeah.
That big, ugly orange tower.
So Monkey Brains rents space on that tower and can beam the internet to people's roofs that have a direct line of sight to it.
But you see, this is what is needed. There is no real free market for most Americans when it comes to their internet, to getting fast internet service provision. We're lucky because we live in the Bay Area, and there are a bunch of companies who are offering it. But I think it's 2/3 of Americans now don't have a choice of more than one ISP. If you want more than 25 megabit per
This
second.
is all going to change in the next 36 months when
really?
SpaceX puts up the low Earth orbit satellite grid of I heard 850 satellites. Somebody told me 4,000 satellites, but they're going to, and I don't know if you saw, they did their first reusable rocket.
Yep, it's on our list here.
2 days ago. We'll talk about it later. But my understanding is, and this is not personal information I have from Elon, who people know I'm friends with, but just publicly, they've talked about he's putting up these satellites, 850 of them or 4,000 of them, that are very small, and the latency is going to be under 100 milliseconds. So the entire country and world will be blanketed, and there's going to be 2 or 3 other people who do this.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a pizza-sized dish, is my understanding. Like maybe a personal pizza even, not like a big Brooklyn-style pizza, but like a personal pizza. You put it on your roof, and you got it. So I was thinking, why the heck don't they put these personal pizza-sized things on the top of every Tesla or car or bus, and then have them driving around everywhere, putting out free Wi-Fi?
Could do.
Because it's powered already. So if every bus, because there was this Israeli company that did like a mesh network on buses. I can't remember the name of it. Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie may pull it up. But their concept was, I think they did it in Spain, and I think they did it in Israel, where every bus in the town had a Wi-Fi network on it, mesh network, when the buses were driving around, instead of putting Wi-Fi everywhere, which in New York, there's this new Wi-Fi. I don't know if you've been to New York recently.
Yeah.
But every train station has Wi-Fi.
And they've got
The subway?
The subway, not in between, but at every station.
Yeah.
So when you stop, you see everybody downloading their email or podcast or whatever. And then in the street, they took all the old phones and they made some iConnect. I don't know what the name of it is.
Yeah, it's
iConnect or something. And I did the speed test next to it. It was like 100 megabits of Wi-Fi where all the old phones used to be, and they have billboards on them. So if you live near one of those, you could have free Wi-Fi anywhere in the city. It's tremendous. This is the future of cities. All right, when we get back, we're going to talk about Palmer Luckey is out at Facebook. Yes, he's the original ish posting guy who was a visionary, but Facebook lost that huge lawsuit. We'll talk a little bit about that. And also, Facebook is stealing every possible startup's idea. I'm on fire about this issue when we get back on This Week in Startups. And let me take a moment to thank my friend Scott Ed Walker of the Walker Corporate Law Group. He is a great guy. He works with a lot of the startups I work with. And Walker Corporate Law is a boutique law firm, and they specialize in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. They charge fixed fees. They love encouraging the fixed fees, so you don't get any of that billable sticker shock. And the way they believe, and the way Scott thinks about it, is that these billable hours, they reward inefficiency. He wants to get your work done. He wants to make it tight, make it right, and give you one fixed fee. All of their lawyers have 10 or 20 years of experience. There are no junior associates getting on-the-job training with your startup. So they do mergers and acquisitions, licensing agreements, terms of service, privacy policies. They'll form your company, help you raise money, all that great stuff. If you want to talk to the founder, call Scott Ed Walker directly at 415-979-9998. That number again, 415-979-9998. And you can email him directly, Scott at Walker Corporate Law, Scott at walkercorporatelaw.com, or visit walkercorporatelaw.com. Thanks again, Scott. You've been a tireless supporter of This Week in Startups since the beginning. I think it's our longest running advertiser right now. Thanks for the support. Okay, back to the news. What do you got for us next?
So yeah, Palmer Luckey, the inventor of the Oculus Rift, he started with a Kickstarter, super successful Kickstarter, and then sold the company later to Facebook for $2 billion. A lot of those early Kickstarter backers were not thrilled about that move. And then there's been drama since then. First, the lawsuit. So ZeniMax, Facebook had to pay $500 million for questions about the intellectual property related to the Oculus Rift from before the acquisition. And then now, this week, Palmer Luckey is officially out of the company.
And that happened with no notice, like 24-hour notice, it felt like. The
announcement
happened yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Thursday.
Yeah. But the writing was on the wall. So the other kind of piece of drama was that he was using his personal money to fund, and quite a bit of money to fund these posters, basically pro-Trump kind of trolls on Reddit and other websites. And that came out maybe this fall around the election time.
They call that ish posting.
They call that ish posting, correct.
SHIT posting. We don't want to get the explicit here on the iTunes. But he was supporting, like, I don't want to say violent trolling, but extreme trolling would be the way to do it.
That's right. And his comment about it was really insensitive, kind of that it was almost maybe not super ideologically driven as much as it was like fun for him.
What an idiot.
Well, it actually lost them a fair amount of business. There are about 3 or 4 game studios that said, right, we're no longer developing for the Oculus on this one. Because he came out and said, basically, well, to overturn an entrenched elite, then you need to be able to fund it and fight back. And you're like,
What an idiot.
That's not, you're not a revolutionary. This is just HIT posting about politicians. This is not constructive dialogue. This is not an attempt to reform the American political scene. This is just, let's be a troll.
Yeah, if you want to see like a person's true character, give them a pile of money or a bunch of power, and then you will see.
2 bottles of vodka works very well on that.
That as well. It's like the sort of quick way of being a billionaire or whatever. But I mean, can you imagine? I just want to stop for a second and just give everybody in my portfolio or the people I work with just a public service announcement. If you are lucky enough to hit the jackpot and make hundreds of millions of dollars, behave yourself. You moron. You hit the jackpot. It's like somebody winning the mega ball lottery and then just going on the street and randomly punching people in the face. Like, this guy Parker Lucky is a complete and utter moron. For somebody to be a visionary to create something like Oculus and make VR, I bought the Oculus. It's pretty impressive, I have to say. I believe that VR is at least 2 years away from being a meaningful business opportunity. But that's about the window where I like to invest. So it's kind of on my radar now. In fact, we have one company in our incubator. But Jesus, this kid's an idiot.
Well, the Germans, being German, have a word for this, which I forget what exactly what it is. No, it's a word which means someone who is incredibly smart in one area and incredibly stupid in the other and can't see the difference between the two.
Yeah, it's like being a savant, except it's a more insulting term. Because savant, you kind of feel like, the person can't carry on a conversation at dinner.
Yeah.
But they can play the piano amazing, so it kind of forgives their autistic ways or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But this case, Palmer Lucky's just an idiot and a troll. So dumb.
Well, and it's started
so
to show.
dumb.
I mean, the writing was on the wall when Facebook hired Hugo Barra back from Xiaomi, and he started to take over the reins of their VR effort and kick some serious bottom. And there's no way that he and Palmer Luckey were going to be playing nice at any point in time. So I think it was just like,
it's good on Facebook to get him out. That was a smart. I have to give credit to Zuckerberg because he's collected the founder of WhatsApp, stuck around. Kevin Systrom from Instagram stuck around. He got Sheryl Sandberg to join him. I mean, he's got a lot of winners on that bench. People stay at Facebook. I mean, we'll get into some of the reasons why I think people will leave Facebook or not join it in the future. But for him to pull the plug on the Palmer Luckey experience is pretty brilliant. I give kudos to Zuckerberg.
No.
I mean, honestly, here's the other thing. I think on a leadership basis, if you represent the company, so you represent your company first, Oculus, and your vision of the world. Behave yourself. Number 2, if you represent the company that's worth a couple of $100 billion that made you a billionaire, and you represent Mark Andreessen, who invested in your company, and Andreessen Horowitz, and you represent all the employees and all their families and everybody whose entire net worth is locked up in this, you have a higher duty of service. And this is a complete lack of moral character and leadership for someone like Palmer Luckey to be doing this shit posting. F it, I'm going to say it.
So what do you think about the $2 billion price for Oculus? Now that, I mean, in some ways this technology is already becoming commoditized.
Well, that was
could Facebook have just put an LCD screen and some sensors together?
Honestly, it's a rounding error for them. What I like about Zuckerberg is it's like a poker player who makes bets just to see if he can win the pot. So WhatsApp was 10% of the company's value. Instagram was 1% of the company's value. Oculus was maybe 2% of the value of Facebook overall. Who cares? Make 10 bets that are 2, 3, 4% and have one work out to be a YouTube or an Instagram or a WhatsApp.
So you're saying they're the Gus Hansen of the startup world?
Exactly. He's just willing to make some bets that, let's see if I win the pot. Maybe I can bet. Maybe you missed your flush or straight. And so it was probably worth it. And I don't know if it's the most efficient use of capital, but at least it got them in the game. And they're probably ahead of most people, right? They're in the top 3?
Yeah, that's right.
Top 3.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're in the game. I mean, is Google in the game?
Yeah, they're in the...
With Cardboard, they're really in the game?
Well, Daydream...
Yeah, they have the new Android phones, which are going to help them get up to Samsung VR level.
They're in the game of getting VR to a lot more people than Facebook and HTC are, but not necessarily high-end VR.
But you see,
It doesn't feel like they're deeply in the game, though. I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise us. But Apple's not in the game yet.
Yet.
Okay. When do you think, Ian, VR is going to actually be, let's say, in what year and in what quarter of what year? Sounds like we're getting into a betting line here. The quarter and the year. Will 10 million people a day put a VR headset on?
Ooh, good
So now, I'm not saying that there's 10 million in sales, because we're going to get to that point. That's easier to predict.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is 10 million people on April 1st, 20 whatever, you pick the year, are going to have a headset on that day, for even if it's just for a minute.
Q4 2017, no question.
Q4 2017.
Really?
Look at Austin jumping the
Wow.
fence. I'm asking Ian, and he just jumps the fence.
I'd go Q4 2020 at the earliest. And
Interesting.
also, I think we're kind of missing the point on this, because VR is only going to be a smaller part of the market than AR.
Okay.
Once you get decent AR systems
All right,
in
I'll
place.
bundle it.
Okay.
AR, VR, mixed reality, just headset of augmented or virtual reality. When will 10 million people put on some combination of HoloLens, Oculus, VR, Daydream, yada, 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 Apple's new product? 10 million people have it on that day.
I'd say maybe first quarter 2020. Once you've got all
First
the,
quarter 2020, interesting.
I think it's going to be a lot slower than people think, because the content isn't there.
So you're saying 3 years.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's a limited number of gamers who are willing to buy the system, and they're
you're
driving the
saying
market.
Fourth quarter
Yeah.
of 2018 or 2017?
2017.
This year?
The iPhone 8, yeah.
You think that 10 million people are going to put, okay, you're completely wrong. I
mean-
take the over on your bet, and I take
All right.
the under on your bet, Ian.
All right, let's
so I'm
see.
over yours, and I'm under yours, Ian. Over yours. You're going to lose your bet.
Wait, so you have the whole space in between our two bets, or do you have to?
Hey, he's the boss out there.
Well, anyway, I'm just saying I would take the over. If you're saying the line, I would take the over.
Yeah. Oh, so this is two separate bets.
Two
essentially.
separate
Okay.
bets. I would take the over on yours. I take the under on yours. You guys both okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, $100 each?
Sure.
Okay. You bring a $100 bill next time. Will you lose it? All right.
We'll see.
We'll see.
No, I'm in
All
for a
right,
bet. And Thomson always pays his
Well,
bets.
oh, really? Did you guys see the Game of Thrones trailer?
Yes.
No.
Oh, it's so good. So good. It looks like it's going to be a great season. All right, let's move on to the next Facebook story. Now that we got over the Palmer Luckey is just a complete moron who doesn't appreciate his success or care about any of his employees, family members, team members, if you're going to do that kind of shenanigans. If you don't, here's a clue. I hate to get totally crazy. If you're doing something like this anonymously, you might want to think that the anonymity plus Reddit, plus you would be ashamed about it. Like, think about what you're doing if it's anonymous. In other words, if you have to put a mask on and then you throw the brick through the window, you may not want to throw the brick through the window because you weren't willing to do it with your mask off.
Well, Peter Thiel to come out and say, yes, I did sue, go after Gawker with lawsuits. He was quite upfront about it.
He was up front when he got caught.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect example. I think he would have quietly done it. But it's a perfect example, Ian. I think he probably had the realization that I look like a scumbag doing this without it being disclosed, so I might as well own it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tricky case because, on one side, you didn't really want either side to win in a way.
There are no winners in that case.
Yeah, exactly. But at
Both
the same
are-
time,
yeah.
it was pretty egregious behavior on his part.
I agree. All right, well, let's go on to the next story, and then I'll do another ad break.
Okay. Some more Facebook stories. So yesterday, Facebook launched a personal funding tool super similar to GoFundMe. So
Super similar or an exact copy?
not an exact copy. I mean,
People
it's
in my feed...
Legally deniably similar.
People in my feed seem to think it was exact or suspiciously close. But keep going.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it works the same way. So it is, you could say, an exact copy. And then earlier this week, Facebook added the stories to the Facebook app, which is now their fourth app. So first it was Instagram stories, then WhatsApp stories, and then Facebook Messenger stories, and now we have Facebook stories in the core app, which has 1.6 billion users.
So they have copied Snapchat in every single product they own, basically.
Yeah, except for the Facebook
Messenger?
Facebook Pages Manager app, I think.
Yeah, which is like a tool. What does this tell us, Ian, about the state of Facebook that their last 4 or 5 product releases are Snapchat's last 4 or 5 product releases.
That they're being reactive rather than proactive, that they're actually, much as I hate the word proactive, but you know what I mean.
Creative.
Yes, creative would be a much better word. Yeah, I mean, they're basically copying the competition, which everyone in the IT industry has done pretty much since there was an IT industry, but it doesn't particularly reassure you about the state of where they're going if they're reduced to actually copying other people rather than coming up with things which actually, really generate some new interest in the site. And when I saw particularly with the fundraising app, I said, oh, great, another app. There's not, I don't use the Facebook app on my mobile phone because I like my battery. And, I don't use I'm using Facebook less and less because you're getting spammed out with this stuff. I don't really want, thousands of begging messages from people going, I want to go and play with the gorillas in Rwanda, please, for Amnesty International or Spina Bifida, please sponsor me. It's just going to be something else to gum up the feeds and make people spend less and less time on the site.
I am incredibly upset about this. I find what Facebook is doing so abhorrent and horrible. And it is, it's particularly disturbing because not only are they relentlessly copying Snapchat and other startups, they're doing it after offering to buy them. Snapchat obviously famously turned them down. And then they go on this incredibly vindictive, copy it pixel by pixel. And the Instagram copy was just shocking, like how pixel by pixel it was. And then put it into all 4 different products they have, 3 or 4 different product lines. To me, it's a level of unabashed shamelessness in copying that would make me as an employee embarrassed to work there. I think it's embarrassing to copy things this pixel by pixel. I'm not saying, listen, people build on each other's ideas. We understand that here in the Valley, and you're right, IT, people copy things, of course. But it's so brutally photocopying that when you can see that they literally don't care about putting any creativity in it, any thinking, it makes me wonder what type of person works there. It honestly does, because if you were truly talented, what is the conversation like when Zuckerberg walks in and says to Kevin Systrom, I want you to copy Instagram. I want Instagram to copy Snap, Facebook. What does Kevin Systrom do? Just roll over and just be like, yes, I'll do whatever you want. Or is Kevin Systrom like, hey, and the leader of WhatsApp, are they all just getting in a meeting saying, we have to kill this company so our stock value goes up and let's just all do this? But I just think if you work there, you're selling yourself short by not coming up with at least some interesting ideas to build off of what else is in the marketplace. And I will say, this reminds me of something that happened back in 2010, which was Facebook and Y Combinator partnered in 2010. And I said, this is a terrible idea. You should not partner with Facebook. I don't trust that company. They are a band of thieves.
Yep.
To a level that is crazy. And I remember Paul Graham was just like, Jason's being alarmist. I can tell you right now, if you are a founder and you meet with Facebook, you are crazy. If you talk to anybody who works at Facebook, you're crazy. It's insane to trust Facebook at this point because of the blatant stealing they're doing. And if you combine this with the heavy-handedness, I can tell you some stories that have been told to me where Zuckerberg himself said to founders, now this was relayed to me by an investor who I know very closely, and I don't have any reason to think he is lying. Zuckerberg told those founders, screw your investors, we'll buy you really cheap, we'll give you a ton of RSUs, a ton of stock options, F your investors. Screw them. This is literally what this investor told me. They said, and then that investor went and got another company to buy the company because Zuckerberg was so intent. Now, I don't know if Zuckerberg's matured since then or if the story is true or not true, but it rings true when you see this pattern of stealing.
You see, this reminds me an awful lot of the early days of Microsoft. When Microsoft came up with Microsoft Word 1.0, it was basically a less functional rip-off of WordPress.
Yeah, WordPerfect.
Yeah. And same thing with Lotus 123 and spreadsheets and various others. And the fact is, it works. For a limited period, it works. Yeah, you get a reputation for being some of the worst guys in the industry. Yes, you screw over a lot of people, but, at the end of the day, it pads the bottom line. And that's my concern with this. I hadn't heard that story about Microsoft, as about Facebook. But yeah, I would agree. If you're a startup, steer clear of going down to Menlo Park and showing them the goods.
Be very careful.
So can I just disagree with you quickly?
Sure.
So I sort of think the stories thing, I just have trouble seeing it even as copying, actually, because I think with consumer products, there are just protocols. If you are lucky enough to come up with an idea so good that it becomes a protocol, so like the sunroof in a car, someone came up with that idea, and now it's just every car company offers a sunroof in the car. And the like button, I think, is an example of that where it was Facebook's innovation, and now if you're building
was
a consumer...
Facebook's innovation, the like button?
I believe so.
I'm not sure if it was.
And the news feed was Facebook.
No,
but then
geotagging. Twitter was the news feed. So.
Sure, yeah. So
they stole that too.
But I guess I'm saying the like button translates from
the like button.
The like button had been used in sites like Slashdot for so many years.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually theirs.
Right. So I'm saying it's just a protocol, though. And I think that stories, if people at Snapchat are upset about this and think that it's like going to and are threatened by it, then they are. They just can't. It's if they invented a protocol, whether it's a like button or stories or
in a way, it's flattery.
Yeah.
That you created something so great.
Yeah. But if what they created can just be ripped off and then they lose because of that, then that's on them.
It's kind of like a Netscape Internet Explorer thing. And Netscape invented the browser and set up all those protocols. And then Microsoft came along as a very large company with very deep pockets and said, right, we're going to give that product away for free. And they got a dominant position within the market. It's understandable. I can quite understand where you're coming from. But there's something about it which really sticks in the craw for me. It seems it harms innovation, I think, in the long term.
It's just a level. So I think that your justification is for minor things. I might buy like underline or bold or like I kind of feel you with the like button.
What about like a trackpad? There was a first PC manufacturer to put a trackpad.
Well, they could patent hardware and stuff like that and license it, right? So there's IP that you can protect. In the creative fields, when you copy something so blatantly, so brazenly, it's harder to protect on an intellectual property basis, right? The creative stuff, the design, right? It's hard. You can't just like a recipe or a design. And it really is, to an extent, how often you do it, right? So when somebody relentlessly steals from somebody, that's when it feels really lame. And they stole stories, they stole filters, they stole ephemeral messaging, and any minute they're going to launch spectacles, I'm sure. So I would say those are the four main innovations that Snapchat has had. And to steal 3 of the 4, and to steal them across a body of work, it just feels to me like a level of stealing that it just feels unethical or immoral or icky. And I think it's going to cost them employees in the future. And I think if you're selling your company, you're going to sell it to the highest bidder in most cases, right? You're going to take the money. Investors are going to take the money. Founders are going to take the money. But I just think it's an unnecessary and extensive amount of stealing. If it wasn't every week or every 2 weeks they were trying to kill this company, Snapchat, I would feel differently about it. But it feels unfair. It just feels the quantity of it. It does make me believe that Evan Spiegel is a very unique individual and a unique talent that Kevin Systrom and the founder of WhatsApp, I forgot his name, and he's a quiet guy. You don't really hear from him all that much. And Zuckerberg, if they're going to steal that much from Evan Spiegel and they can't kill the company, to me that means Snapchat's got a bright future. And maybe they're worth the valuation. I don't know. All right, when we get back, we're going to talk about what? What are we going to talk about? Elon Musk has got a new startup, maybe, that is doing connecting computers to our brains. And I wrote a piece about podcasting. Maybe we'll talk about that. And the new replies on Twitter are a complete, utter disaster when we get back on This Week in Startups with Iain and Austin. Okay, hey, Squarespace is amazing. I saw Anthony last week when I was in New York, and Squarespace has a beautiful new headquarters. I'm going to do a book launch party there in July. Look for that. But we build websites all the time here at This Week in Startups and for all of our podcasts, for all of our events. And when we need to pop up these event websites, I just go, hey guys, buy this domain, pop up the website. It's up in an hour or two. I'm sorry, it's up in 10 minutes, but it's designed and fully up with the writing and everything we need to have on it in the same day. To me, that's a revelation because the sites look so beautiful and it costs so little. The tools to build these websites are so easy and it's very intuitive. So when one team member learns how to do it, they literally just lean over and say, hey, click here and here's your login. And the other person's like, yeah, you don't need to tell me. It's obvious. That's how great website building has become thanks to Squarespace. It's the state-of-the-art technology. It's secure, it's stable, it's trusted by millions, including some of the most respected brands in the world, including Launch. They are amazing. I love Squarespace. You can start your free trial today. No credit card is required. That's how confident they are. And you'll get a free domain if you sign up for a year. If you decide to keep your Squarespace, use the offer code TWIST and get 10% off your first purchase. That's right. If you decide to use Squarespace beyond the trial, just use TWIST and you get 10% off your first purchase. You'll get that domain name free as well. It is a fantastic product. If you know anybody in your circle who has to build a website, instead of trying to do this all yourself, just point them to Squarespace and you will not be disappointed because it just works. What else is in the news, Austin?
All right, so two big Elon Musk stories this week. The first is he has announced his newest startup, Neuralink, which is a neural lace project, and they haven't talked too much about it yet. But neural lace is sort of a human brain computer interaction, so software and or hardware that connects with your brain to make your brain move smarter or be faster or yeah.
How close is this to being a reality? Is there like in an MIT or Harvard lab somewhere? I mean, I know you can control the computer with your brain waves, but have they connected a physical brain to a chip yet? I didn't know that was happening.
There's been a lot of interesting research. I mean, particularly because we've got so many people with spinal injuries after 16 years of war now. So, I mean, there's been a lot of research by American researchers on this. Now, yeah, we've got the control aspect down. But actually linking a brain to a computer in a way that the brain can utilize information on the computer, that is a long, long way in the future. And you run into all kinds of ethical problems with testing. In terms of getting this done, I was talking to somebody about it, and he said, honestly, our best move, if we were going to do this, would be to move to somewhere like China or India, where the rules are a lot more lax and you can fiddle around with brain stems a lot more easily, rather than trying to do it in the US. So long term, it's it's the holy grail for this sort of thing. Human augmented computers or computer augmented humans, depending on which way you want to look at it, are the ultimate goal, and it's the thing that everyone has wanted since, well, William Gibson started writing about it in the 80s.
It would be a very interesting phenomenon if you could access the internet without using a computer, but just a chip in your brain. It could lead to all kinds of interesting maladies as well, to have always-on access to information. I don't know, people can predict if our brains are actually designed to handle a deluge of information being poured into it, in the way that, like, Neo wakes up in the Matrix and says, I know Kung Fu kind of situation, or, but to have access to a Japanese language dictionary in your brain at all times, I mean, this is going to be bizarre, because we already, our belief is that intelligence is largely based on understanding and repetition, memorization, knowledge that you've accumulated over some period of time. And then the internet kind of changed that, like the looking up of information or knowing how to spell. That was kind of like played down a certain amount. Not in my mind. I thought knowing how to spell and knowing where the commas place is important. But this is a level that goes beyond spell checking. And what do you think the chances of this happens in our lifetime is, Austin? That we'll be able to download any piece of information into our brain? I'm not saying this is going to be a bet.
I would say it happens in our lifetime. And I think my guess on Elon's perspective is that he sees this as our best hope against, because he has been outspoken about general artificial intelligence and the sort of threats that could pose for humanity. And I think neural lace could actually be our best hope against it, because it could make human-based superintelligence instead of software overlords.
Neural lace is this term that I keep hearing. What does it actually mean? I don't actually.
It's implants into your brain. I'm not an expert here, but it's implants into your brain that can plug into the output and input, and so it's not just like controlling your spine.
How to read neural activity output, and how to stimulate them for input, and how to make sense of the information they store. The IO problem is that there are billions of neurons in your skull, and we want to figure out what they are all doing, and if we're feeling frisky, to make them do what we want them to do. Neural lace is one of hundreds of ideas to accomplish. It's simply a grid that can record and stimulate neurons, but a lot relative to other methods. But there are other ideas such as neural dust, sentries, or the typical electrodes and probes we use today. We can do a good enough job with the rough estimates to have people control robotic arms via thought. We talked about that. Though, for the type of stuff that's really cool, we need a much higher resolution and scale than we currently have. Though this is still an unsolved engineering problem, and it's even harder since most people don't like to have open brain surgery. Now, reading neurons is another problem. As to interface and to get info in and out of the brain, we need to know how it stores and processes information. We currently don't have a clear picture of this, but it's getting less and less blurry every day. That's from Keeland Cooper, who worked BA at Berkeley, Physiology, Biophysics, 1967, PhD, Neurophysiology, 1975, and MD in Stanford in 1979, 30 years on Quora. When I typed in what is neural lace.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Is it? I mean, when you think about it, we were just talking about neural lace and getting access to information in the world's knowledge. And in the 7 seconds, I was like, I don't know what it is. I found the smartest guy or a smart guy on the planet who had been voted up a bunch of times answering that exact question on Quora.
In 20 years, you just won't have to type it into your computer. You'll have it in your brain.
This is going to make
Can you imagine what this is
dinner
going to do
parties horrible.
Well, it's going to kill pub conversations. I mean, right now it's bad because if you say, oh, what was that so-and-so? And instead of chewing the fat for 5 minutes and talking about it, some smart ass just gets his phone out. It was that, actually. Right, what are we talking about now? You know, I mean, it's...
I'm going to miss that fun where we're like, oh, what was that show? And then we kind of like, yeah, the show with the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a puppet, but he was like an alien, and he liked to eat cats, right? What was that show? From the 80s.
Alf.
Right.
Yeah.
See how rewarding that was? I knew it was Alf. I was describing Alf, but it was super rewarding to come to that point of discovery and discussion.
And you better have, if you do get a neural link, you better have a damn good firewall in there. Because, you know, can you imagine having a little advert running at the bottom of your eye going, local singles want to meet you here?
Well, here's
we talk about ISPs being able to sell your browsing data. It could be your neural lace provider.
Yeah.
My neural lace provider is like, by the way, we know that Jason is going to go postal. You might want to offer him to buy an AR-15. I mean, this person has serial killer capabilities. You should really, I mean, this should be a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
That the neural lace, we could write it right now. Let's write it right now. The neural lace technology becomes commoditized. It's open sourced.
This is Minority Report also.
Yeah, but that's precognition. And that was sort of like these three weird beings were able to somehow predict.
But just the premise of predicting
people's crimes. But no, this would be different. This person is actually thinking about it more and more. And so, like, literally somebody's sitting there in the, like, Smith & Wesson office, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, we bought an audience on Facebook. This is all the people who've been thinking about guns and who've been searching for Columbine references. And these are our best targets for selling a bunch of ammunition to. And they could just be having a really, like, lucid discussion about, like, wow, we could really make a lot of money because these people because think about it. People who think about school shootings but don't actually do it, but buy all the guns and arm themselves up. I mean, how different are they from these militia people? These almost be in the same train of thought people.
Yeah, and it's also very easy if you want to run an FBI sting operation. Just who's been thinking about explosives and is virulently anti-Christian? Right, okay, right. Let's get on to these people.
Wait a second, I have a better idea. I could start a cult or religion using this neural lace technology. Once I figure out who's broken inside and who is really desperate and like susceptible to influence, I could create my own religion. Caliconology could be a real thing. We could like literally get a huge number of people to believe that I am the next coming of Christ or something.
Hey, it worked for L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith. Why not? Why not now?
Absolutely. I could just get the top 1% of this audience or 10% of this, 10 basis points of this audience, 10 bips, to join me in my cult.
Sorry, I just got this vision of people in orange robes going around with angel written on the back.
Exactly. Oh my God, July 18th, the book is coming out. It is, so this is interesting. We can read, and we can control our brain waves enough to move a robot. Now we're talking about reading it or potentially pushing information into it.
Yeah, you've got two problems. You've got to set up an interface between a computer and a brain, which we're getting there just about. But you've got to have the ability to actually push data in. And there's two...
That seems really hard.
Yeah,
and dangerous.
The school of thought is that you can use electrical stimuli to change certain areas of the brain. But it's immensely complicated, and no one's got a clue what they're doing at the moment because...
Sign me up. I mean, who's going to be the first person to try this? Like...
Hey, I know a lot of people in the Valley who'd love something like this if it was safe. That
I don't think they'll have trouble getting people to volunteer.
This sounds incredibly dangerous. I mean, it's one thing to take drugs. It's another thing to like get a tattoo or body art or whatever, or to burn yourself or pierce yourself. But this is like shooting electrodes into your brain with the concept of shooting information into there. I mean, you could become totally schizophrenic. You could have your brain could crash.
On the other hand, if
you could crash your brain, you could wipe your hard disk.
On the other hand, if you do actually have the ability to change the way the brain understands things, that would kill the drug market stone dead because you could just get software drugs instead.
Right.
So,
you could just play for me a trip.
Yeah.
You could be like, I have a beautiful trip for you. It's going to make you feel lovey-dovey, and you're just going to be awesome.
And then some hacker comes in and goes,
like
right, bad trip
too,
101.
The Strange Days was a great science fiction film. Catherine Bigelow, the woman who did Hurt Locker, one of the few women to win Best Director. Was she the first woman to win Best Director of a film? We had the Neuralink. We know this.
Yeah.
But she had a great movie, Strange Days, which have you seen it?
No.
You haven't seen it?
I've seen it, yeah.
This is going to blow your mind this weekend, literally. So the premise of the movie is you can put on this rig on your head, which is like a Neuralink, but it's on the outside, and you can record your experience. Then I can play it back to you. They use like a mini disc in the movie, which is kind of cheesy. That like, yeah, you can read the brain, but you have to put it on a disc.
Yeah.
But like, people start doing crazy stuff, like attacking other people, murdering other people, recording it.
Oh, and then people want to like...
Almost like a snuff film.
Like
what does it feel like to murder somebody or do something horrible to another person? I'll leave it at that. And the other possibility is, she was the first woman. Thanks, Emmy.
Remember, no spoilers on this one.
No. But, anyway, I can't tell you more. Watch the film. That is truly, like, you can see Catherine Bigelow is super smart. Is it Angela Bassett is in that? And Ralph Fiennes, maybe?
Although she did also do Point Break, so maybe not quite.
People love Point Break.
Great movie.
Oh, come
People love Point Break.
It is so bad it's good at some stages, but it's pushing the envelope on that one. I can't help feeling.
All right, what else is in there?
Okay,
Give us another news story, and then we'll do some videos of the week.
Yep. More Elon Musk news. They pulled off the first reused rocket mission. So this is a rocket that had a successful launch, came back and landed on the I guess it's a aircraft carrier type of ship
barge,
that they have.
yes.
Yeah, barge. And then they took off again. And he's saying that they're going to be able to do these cycles in 24 hours. So the same rocket can launch twice in 24 hours eventually.
That's pretty epic.
I think, yeah, it's also very optimistic. I mean, bear in mind this rocket was supposed to have flown last June because it flew in April and he wanted to turn it round very quickly. I mean, it's a stunning achievement, and it's going to completely change the economics of orbital delivery. But it all depends on a couple of things we don't know. How much work they did and how many parts they had to replace on this rocket to make it get up there and get back down again, and how quickly they can reuse and refurbish rockets in the future.
And the structural integrity, I guess, is one of the main issues here. Like, because this has never been done before, is it reusable 10 times, 100 times? And how often does it blow up? So if it's with humans on it, you can't, and if there's humans on board, you cannot reuse the rocket if it in any way increases the risk of it blowing up. That would be
Yeah, even a
unconscionable.
1% increase in the risk would be
1%, forget it. If it was 1 in 10,000, you wouldn't do it because you would be knowingly risking human life. We have a very low tolerance for that in our society. We value human life. So even if you were to save let's say you were to save 10 million per launch or 100 million, let's say, because these launches are 50 million or something, I think.
67.
So 67 million. Let's say you saved 30 million, half price. You still wouldn't risk it. Why would you risk human life? For $30 million?
Well, I
No.
mean, it's more than that. The hardware cost of that first stage is 80% of the cost of the entire flight.
Okay.
The actual fuel is below 1% of the cost of
So
the
let's
flight.
make it 50 million
Yeah.
of the 67. If it's 50 million and you put 4 humans on the tip, 12.5 million, these astronauts are smart people. They would make that back in their lifetime. You would never risk them, right?
yeah.
That's just how we think in our society. It's one of the beautiful things about our society. Despite how messed up it is, we value human life beyond its actual monetary value today, which is great. Narcissistic, but it's great. Now, if you have hardware on there, you could make it very easy. If it was a 1 in 1,000 chance that it blows up, you could just amortize that like an insurance policy against the satellites in it. If there's, $10 million in satellites each time, you can do the math on, one extra blow up and just arbitrage that, and it's pretty easy. So that's really going to be the interesting part about this and are they going to have to be actually, I think really the end game is that these things are landing and taking off and landing and taking off autonomously. So imagine this thing lands, gets filled up, and then takes off again, and humans don't have to do anything.
Well, interesting move on that. There was a robot spotted on the barge, Of Course I Still Love You, last week, which, from the looks of it, is an automatic. Currently, when the rocket lands on the barge, they put people onto the barge and then they put weld shoes over the legs so it stays in position. What this
So it
robot
doesn't tip over.
Exactly. What this robot looks like it does
Good call.
is goes on, clamps onto the robot, lifts it slightly, slides itself underneath, and can then shift it around to various parts of the barge, which if there's a refueling tank on there as well, and you can build an automated refueling system, that's an interesting development. So
It's pretty crazy.
You could potentially have the next payload on a ship next to the barge. It lands, moves over to the refueling station, gets refueled, they attach the new payload on, and boof, up it goes again.
What's really interesting about this is you start to look at like automated driving, right, and trucks, and then just the delivery of pizza. And there's this little DoorDash I guess it's a Y Combinator startup that came out that is a little tank. It looks like a little toy tank. Imagine you took a roller, like a luggage roller, and you put 4 wheels under it, or 8 wheels, maybe 6 wheels under it, and you just let it on a horizontal basis, like drive around your neighborhood. And it's driving around Palo Alto, dropping off stuff. They have somebody walking behind it, but it's essentially like an RV car. If we can get the rocket to land, I think we can get delivery and autonomous cars working. So some idiot, I saw this, I don't know if it's in the news, some idiot said we don't have to worry about AI and robotics taking jobs for 100 years.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
Wait, who said this? And are they in any way over the age of 70 and stupid? Are they over the age of 60, stupid, or a lying politician?
By curious coincidence.
Because I literally don't know who said it, but I heard it and I saw it in the notes. Who said the stupidest? This is our new feature.
We turn to our
the
newsreader.
stupidest commentary. Welcome to This Week in Startups. Our idiot of the week is Austin.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin.
Whoa. Somebody in
He said
He's the treasurer.
artificial intelligence will not impact.
Treasurer of the United States of America,
Yep.
our country,
And he wasn't even drunk.
said this. Okay,
right.
wait a second. There must be some explanation.
He said we're looking at that is not going to impact jobs. Artificial intelligence is not going to impact jobs for 50 to 100 years. And so it's not a concern.
He said
we
it
are not
wasn't
thinking
even on
about
their
it.
radar.
Right, not on our
It's-
radar. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God! And that person holds political office. He's the head of the Treasury in the United States.
right.
You're saying. What's this guy's name again?
Steve Mnuchin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing
Steve
it correctly. It's
Mnuchin.
M-N-U. Yeah.
Said, I gotta get the quote right. You're saying it's not on our radar,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
right.
not going to happen for 50 to 100 years. Oh my God! This is the stupid. Palmer Luckey is the troll of the week. Our official troll, I would say 2 new features on This Week in Startups. Troll of the Week and Idiot of the Week.
Do you want the full quote?
Yes, please, because this person must be being misquoted.
In terms of artificial intelligence taking over jobs, I think we're so far away from that it's not even on my radar screen. I think it's 50 or 100 more years. And literally artificial intelligence is taking jobs already today.
This is not like you're punking me in the notes. It's April 1st. So you're making this all up, right, Jackie? This cannot possibly be real. This person literally said that. It's not an April 1st joke. Because today is April 1st.
No, he said tomorrow's April 1st.
Oh, tomorrow's April 1st.
Yeah.
Today's the 31st, sorry.
But yes, he actually said it. I believe it's on video somewhere. If not, there were journalists in the audience.
This person is the stupidest person on the planet.
He's running the Treasury.
Oh my God, I'm literally moving every dollar I have out of US dollars. Can I buy I'm literally thinking about buying like Canadian dollars and Australian dollars or any other dollar that is in a stable country. Iain, let's just go back and forth. It'll be like dueling banjos.
It's tricky.
No. Why is this the stupidest statement ever? And then I'll
because it bears no relation to reality. In the next 10 years, about 5 million Americans are going to lose their jobs and automated cars come online.
Right.
Another 10 years down the line, you're going to find accountants, lawyers, large numbers of
All right, wait, so you're jumping the fence. That was just, forget about the house lawyers. Just your first statement.
Yeah.
Truck drivers are going to be unemployed in the next decade, maybe 2. It's going away.
And that's the most common job in
37 or 50 states or
and
something crazy like that.
it's not just truck drivers. The very concept of a truck stop is going to disappear.
Which means all of the people working at truck stops in legal and illegal activities, I'll leave it at that, are not going to be employed anymore.
It's the job losses just from automated cars alone are going to be huge.
And this guy, wait, did he say 5 to 10 years or 50 to 100?
50 to 100 years.
Okay, this person is a complete and utter moron. I mean, it's a level of stupidity. Let me just explain. You pointed out one that we can debate 5, 10, 15, 20. There's no way to debate 50 years from now that cars are not going to be self-driving. So if this person's estimate is 50 to 100, the most conservative person working in technology with any baseline of education, their furthest estimate would be 30 years, 25 or 30. That's the furthest estimate. For myself, I think it's 7 to 15 years from now that we start to see the impact of this. I know Elon and other people think it's going to be shorter than 7. And Elon's obviously smarter than all of us, so maybe we go with Elon's. But he also is in the industry, so he's got a horse in the race, which, putting that aside, it can't be more than 20 years. No. But to think that retail workers are going to have their job, which retail is more than truck drivers. If you take retail and you take driving, that's, I think, 30 million total in the United States. Those 30 million jobs are toast. Yep. The idea that somebody is going to be a cashier, Panera Bread, Walmart, all these places are going...
McDonald's.
There's not going to be any cashiers. Are you crazy? Look at Cafe X. No barista, no cashier, doing great.
Yep.
It's just the start.
Yeah. When we heard that statement, one of the guys pitched it as a story, and Chris says, "No, that's got to be fake news. Check it again." And we actually got the actual quote, and you're like, "Wow, there are morons in charge of this country." I mean,
what do you think?
So, well, I was going to ask. I mean, do you think he's certainly a moron, or because the same week that he made this comment, we saw Donald Trump at the White House posing for pictures inside of a semi-truck? And so, do you think it's possible that there's more to this than him just being a moron, and maybe
they're pandering?
Yeah,
trolling?
Something like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's clearly some pandering going on, because I'll tell you the stupidest thing I saw today, which is there's very few people who work in coal mines. We should aspire as a society to get rid of every last coal job. That's not to say I want people to lose their jobs. It means I don't want a human being to risk their life in a coal mine, to work in darkness, chipping away at dirty rocks as their purpose in life. Mm-hmm. When solar, wind, and all kinds of renewable energy we've only scratched the surface of that potential. Get those people out of the coal mines, and retrain them to put in solar farms and wind farms. I'm Jason Calacanis, and I'm running for mayor of San Francisco. I'm running for governor of California. And I would like to say that for all the coal workers out there, we're guaranteeing retraining and 1 year salary in transition if you will move to be a solar or wind or any renewable energy effort, or to be a teacher. 1 year of salary and 1 year of free training. I'm Jason Calacanis, and I'm looking for your vote on November 8th. I mean, is that so hard to say? Would the American people not respond to that as opposed to we want to send more people down into the dungeons and caves to rip rocks out of the goddamn ground?
I don't think it's a problem with the American workers. I think it's a problem with the people that own the coal companies.
And
they're
economies that rely on those. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, the very concept that this is just not going to be an issue, not even going to think about it. I guess you could well be right. It could be pandering to the trucking industry, just like we're not going to get involved in this. Because quite frankly, the biggest reason why we're not going to get autonomous cars isn't because the technology doesn't work. It's because we can't get a regulatory framework to make it work that satisfies people.
Do you think there'll be filibustering where people will pay off, like we saw with the ISPs this week, people from the trucking unions or whatever will pay off politicians to vote against self-driving? Do you think that'll happen? Or
I think it's 100%. Pretty much guaranteed, yeah.
Will they be able to stop it? Or will consumers want it so badly to capture those 2 hours to watch more Netflix or play video games or sleep that there's no way for them to stop it? Or could they actually start to stop it?
There's no way they could stop it in perpetuity.
Well, of course. Yeah. But in the short run, could they push it back a decade?
They can delay it, but
a decade? Could they push it back a decade?
It all depends on basically the thing about autonomous driving is it all depends on the profit margin. Because if it's that big a change to a company's bottom line that it gives them a massive competitive advantage, then they will push for it. The only people who will push against it are going to be a dwindling number of people, like the trucking unions and that sort of thing, who can't hold it up forever. So they might be able to push it back for a decade, but if the economics work against them, any attempts to stop it could fall earlier.
They would have to do it on a federal level, because if California allows it and no one else does, then suddenly the economic and life or death value of this would be visible to the whole world, and then the lobbyists would have no more leverage. So I think if they can, and the way they do it on the federal level is with federal highway funding. That's how they forced all the states to to put like drinking and driving regulation and all those things in.
And speed limit regulation.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of stuff, because you just withhold the funds.
But if California can make more money if that industry is worth more than California gets in federal highway funding, then the lobbyists are in a tough spot.
Honestly, this could create a civil war in our country. That when these 30 million jobs get eliminated, it is going to create, because if you think Trump got elected in part because of people who feel their future is less prosperous than their parents and that nobody's looking out for them, and the Clintons are a corrupt dynasty of people who get, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for the Clinton Foundation from countries, for peddling influence, whatever. And I don't know if, it's not fake news, but it may not be exactly accurate, but it's, there was some pretty outrageous speaking fees. That person now sees every job at Panera or Five Guys Burgers all go away, and the trucking jobs start to go away. They elected Trump to burn this down and to drain the swamp. Now imagine the jobs, or not imagine, when the jobs actually start deteriorating in, let's call it, I put it at 7 to 15 years from now.
But Trump will be out of office.
Of course he will, but in 2025 to 2035, it is going to be bedlam when 30 million jobs go away. And when you raise the minimum wage, which I'm in favor of, all those people in New York, fast food people, there was all those protests and they raised the minimum wage, which they should, they all started looking into this automation and getting rid of the cashiers. And as the cost of robots come down, as we're seeing, like Cafe X couldn't have worked 10 years ago because the robotic arm just wouldn't have been able to do it, number one. Number two, it would have been too expensive. You have a $250,000 arm. Now it's a $5,000 arm or a $10,000 arm, right? It's so obvious. This is going to create a civil war in our country.
Historically, it's happened before. I mean, if you look at the early industrialization in the United Kingdom, then we had crowds of people going around smashing up machinery because it was quite literally taking their jobs and their livelihood. And the way it has worked in the past is that pressure builds up and builds up and builds up. There are riots, civil disturbances, and then whoever's in power makes the choice. Do we pay off these people to an extent, or do we go hard out? And that generally leads in revolutions. So in some countries, industrialization has caused political revolutions. In some, it's caused social systems to be enacted. And generally, the more stable way to do it is to share the wealth a bit.
How worried are you about it?
I honestly am very, very worried about it. Sit me down with a couple of beers and I can talk at great length about how this is going to be probably the biggest commercial the biggest societal shift that we've seen.
And you're not a
since the invention
hysterical
of the steam
person. I
engine.
said at the beginning, you're a pragmatist.
No, absolutely
you're
not.
a little bit cynical. And, listen, you're a great writer, and people choose writing because they tend to be, pragmatic people who think about these issues. You're a considered person, Iain. It actually is scary to you.
Yeah, I mean, it genuinely, because nobody seems to be getting their head around quite how serious a problem this is.
And the timeline is going to be massively accelerated compared to the Industrial Revolution.
And once you get making the decision to allow self-driving trucks on the road, which I think will be certainly within the next 10 years, it's going to be an instant change for a lot of these people.
Sure. It's like
it's not going to be a slow tail off.
Airbnb and Uber and Lyft. It's like those things were like these cool little things in San Francisco, and then within 5, 6, 7 years, they were everywhere. And Paris was the biggest city, and then China became the biggest market for ride sharing. It's like, oh, okay, these things spread around the globe. Great ideas spread around the globe in, let's call it 5 years, 6 years. So
it's going to be $1,000 piece of hardware that replaces a $75,000 a year driver.
If you include
Forever.
benefits.
Forever. Yeah.
And who doesn't
or
need
let's say you upgrade it every 10 years.
and who doesn't need sleep, never go on
$750
strike.
versus 10,000 or something.
Yeah, doesn't need sleep, will never go on strike, never get sick, never is late for work. I mean, it's already caused violence. When Uber came to London, the London Taxi Drivers Association, who have a real lock on the whole thing, they didn't protest. They didn't go to their politicians and say, do something about this. They went to the Uber offices and smashed them up. This is how they operate.
Yeah.
So this is going to happen more and more. And
we have somebody in office saying that it's going to be 50 to 100 years out. It's the stupidest statement I think I've ever heard.
It's sticking your head in the sand.
And this is the Trump administration. I'm saying it's the stupidest. I mean, Trump says some pretty stupid stuff. I mean, I don't want to get political, but he says some nonsensical stuff. This is the most this is nonsensical in an administration filled with nonsensical statements. It's insane. Let's do some good news as we wrap up here. Everybody look at the screen. This is my video of the week. Read this one for us. Tell us what we're about to see. It's the quadriplegic one.
Oh.
Second one.
Sorry. Researchers enable a quadriplegic to control his arm and hands with thoughts. This goes back to the neural lace. Case Western Reserve University researchers put electrical implants in Bill Kochever's motor cortex and sensors in his forearm. A computer processes the signals mid-path. The researchers say this proof of concept demonstrates feasibility for a wireless routine solution.
This is incredible to watch. For those of you listening on audio, the person basically has a box on the top of their head, which is got some sort of stem going into, I guess, the brain. Something is going into his brain. I think these things are like literally bolted on. And
he has implants
moving his arm. Because he's a quadriplegic, he cannot control his arm. His arm is not moving. The robot connected to his arm is moving his arm around. So it's not the muscle in his arm that's moving it. It's the robotic contraption, or is it actually firing his muscles?
No, the robot. Yeah, it's not firing his muscles. It's firing the robot, and so it's picking up the impulses. So your motor cortex sends a signal, and they're picking that up, and they're saying they can do it wirelessly as well.
So this is eventually going to become the exoskeleton. So somebody who's quadriplegic, tragically, is literally going to be able to move the skeleton, the exoskeleton, a framework around their body, with their brain.
And it wouldn't have to be an exoskeleton. Longer term, they could install hardware to replace your bones, and it could be
Wolverine. It could be adamantium.
Yeah.
So they literally could put in the bone a structure that would move. Oh my God. You'd still want to do it on the outside. It's too invasive. What's the point?
Maybe.
And not just paraplegics as well. I mean, this could revolutionize the construction industry. Go in, slap on a powerlifter suit, and,
Yeah.
and Bob's your uncle.
But the thing that's interesting here is, like, when we saw Jeff Bezos last week go into one of those suits from Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, which we've all seen, those mecha, like sort of giant robot ones. You're moving your arms in parallel to the movement of the robot, right? So you move your arm, but here we have a paraplegic who can't move their arm, having their actual arm moved. This is the upside to the same discussion we're having about losing jobs, is that there is going to be an upside to it, which is the pain and suffering and the ease at which we go about our lives is going to become greatly enhanced. So the bounty is people who are disabled are going to be able to move again freely. And you're going to have a personal robot who will do whatever you need. So the idea that you're going to have to build a house or tend to your crops, you could have a C-3PO style robot that goes and does everything you need in your life, including going and getting you food. It's completely possible that this bounty will trickle down. Do you believe that, Austin? You're kind of rolling your eyes at me.
The idea of like crops, I don't think there's a market for everyone to have a personal robot that tends to crops necessarily.
Okay.
Because I think that I just don't think that's the way that people will get their food. I don't think we're going to go back to like personal farming to get our food. But yeah, in terms of feasibility, for sure, I think we're going there. I think all of these things are happening, and I think they're all going to converge at the same time. So self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, neural lace, they'll happen in succession. But I think, everything is going to change. Augmented reality is going to play a huge role in this as well.
Ian, you think we're going to have personal robots? What do you think about these personal robots? Because kids have the Sphero. Kids are starting to get the Legos.
They're nothing but toys at the moment.
There's a lot of robotic toys.
Yeah.
You have the Roomba, and you have a self-driving Tesla that keeps you in the lane. Okay, these things are starting to be play toys, like the PC was in the late 70s, right? The PC was for
hobbyists.
Hobbyists. So you have a hobbyist robotic movement happening. Will this hobbyist robotic movement and become eventually that we'll be able to buy a robot that assists us around the house? How far are we from the Roomba standing upright and us having one of those in our house? This will be our final bet of the session. A robot
that does the dishes.
A robot that will do the dishes, walk the dog, take out your trash. How many years before it can do those three simple tasks? Walk the dog, take out your trash, and empty or fill the dishwasher.
Walk the dog is a big one because that's
sounds easier than actually, candidly, probably easier than the dishwasher.
Yeah, maybe so.
I have a hard time with the dishwasher. I mean, that's challenging for me.
Walk the dog.
What do you do? You put the forks down or up? I still don't know.
Always up.
Always up, right? Because they can't get clean when they're down.
Yeah.
But
I don't have a dishwasher at my house, but I know up.
Oh, seriously.
You don't have a dish. You work for me and you don't have a dishwasher?
That's right.
It saves.
How much am I paying you? I'm paying you a lot of money. Is that how bad it is in San Francisco? Do you have a bathroom?
We have a bathroom, yeah.
Is the bathroom in the kitchen?
No.
So you don't have that? That was my first girlfriend in New York, Manhattan. She literally, I went to her studio, and I was like, hey, I know what the bathroom is, but there's no shower in there. How do you take a bath? You always smell so nice. She's like, oh, and she goes into the kitchen, and she lifts up the lid on this like bench, and there was a bathtub there. And that's how they used to do it in the Lower East Side, these, SROs or whatever. You had a bathtub that was hidden, and you would just, shower off with a thing.
Good grief.
How
It's
soon?
like on a sailboat.
It's kind of like a sailboat, exactly. How soon before we have a personal robot that can load the dishes, take out the trash, and walk the dog? Do, 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 do.
Are you saying, are you
year.
talking about some amount of scale, like millions of users of this type of thing? Or
You
the
can
first,
buy one for
first
under
one on the market?
$20,000. A personal robot under $20,000. Put it this way, a middle-class family can afford one on layaway. It's sort of like the cost of a Prius, let's say. You could have a personal robot in the cost of a cheap car that does 3 tasks, 2 of the 3 tasks, efficiently enough that you would pay for it. Do, do, do,
Okay.
do, what year Ian's thinking
With a
of.
caveat I would say that's 15 years away. No, that's maybe 10 years away. 15 if they decide to go for a humanoid form factor.
Okay.
Because I think that's going to be something that people
So
really
10 or
rebel
15.
against. Yeah.
I'm going to say humanoid factors, just so we're all clear. So you say
Okay.
15 years
Yeah,
before a
15.
humanoid form.
Wait, so we're saying it has to be a humanoid?
No.
Okay.
Let's go with the non-humanoid form. I agree. Okay. We don't have to cross the uncountable. It doesn't have to be Dolores. Okay? Doesn't have to...
And bear in mind, from a robotics perspective, human beings are incredibly difficult to copy and very inefficient at what they do.
Yeah,
So,
stupid. We should have more like an R2-D2 style.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be something a little bit more squat and doesn't... has
Yeah,
an
something
easier
like that.
time
I'd
getting
say
around.
10
And it
years
should have
on
like
that.
6 arms instead
Yeah,
of,
you should
instead
have
of 2.
functional arms that do correct things, like why 2, why not 4, and why, there might be one that's a hook and one, you get the idea. Okay, so
I'm
50,
saying,
say 15 years in, you want
If it's non-humanoid, 10.
10. Okay, you want it. Now here's the way you play the game. You can either say over or under for the
under.
bet.
No question.
Under 10 years before you have that.
Yeah.
For 20 grand.
Available for 20 grand or less. I'm going to take the over. Perfect. We have a great bet.
I mean, the cost won't be...
You set the line.
The cost won't be very prohibitive, I don't think, because once they figure it out, it's just
Do
software.
you think it's 10 or more or 10 or less? And you set the line. Do you want the over or the under?
I'd say 10 or more.
10 or more. So you have the under.
Yep.
We have the over. That means you have 2 bets going, one with each of us.
I'll buy a dishwasher in 10 years when these bets pan out.
All right, what did we learn today? Somebody in the Trump administration is in charge of the money in the country, has no clue, literally no clue as to what's happening in the actual real world. Be scared. Number 2, your privacy is an illusion, right, Ian? And you're going to be sold out by your ISP.
Scott McNeely did not know how right he was.
Palmer Luckey is an absolute complete moron for getting himself kicked out of Facebook for being a troll. Facebook is copying everything in sight. You shouldn't meet with them. Elon Musk is landing rockets. And yeah. Thank you to our sponsor. Oh, and quadriplegics are going to be able to control with their minds robots and be functional. And we're all going to have personal robots within 10 years. And all the jobs are going away. And get ready for the Civil War.
Stock up on bullets and corned beef,
I'm not a prepper. I mean, I may need to start thinking about this prepper thing.
You don't have an estate in New Zealand waiting to accept
No,
you?
of course I don't. So dumb. Although what I would say I would do, I'm a big fan of like zombie apocalypse stuff. I feel like I would be like Negan or Rick. I would kind of be the guy who takes over for sure in a zombie
Wait,
apocalypse.
which one? You just said Negan or Rick.
Doesn't matter. The point is I would have my own fiefdom
There's a difference there.
very quick.
You see, I take the opposite view. I already know the boat in Berkeley Marina I would steal and take out.
Well, this is the thing. In Fear the Walking Dead, spoiler alert, they commandeer a yacht. And I think if the world's going to go to pot, you want to be offshore in a boat because worst case scenario, another boat tries to attack you. But if you got some weapons, you're in good shape.
Do you know how to sail?
Not really.
I teach sailing,
I know
so
how to
I'm
sail.
salty.
You know how to sail?
Yes.
You teach sailing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll pick both of you guys up or one. I'll pick one of you is going to get picked up. Be in the marina when it hits the fan. Just get to Half Moon Bay and just swim out on a raft. I'll be out somewhere in Half Moon Bay. I think that's the best move. Is you get a boat because it gives you mobility.
Food, however, is the downside of that.
Fish. What? I love fish. You don't like fish?
Yeah, but you'll starve to death on a diet of pure fish.
You will?
Yeah, because you can't get the fish have a limited number of
Nutrients and everything?
nutrients.
And you get
There
too
were-
much mercury.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I think that's.
We're talking about the zombie apocalypse.
But I mean,
I'm not too worried about the mercury.
We saw
on
this with the Alaskan gold rush when miners went up there and they literally starved to death on a diet of pure rabbit because they couldn't get the vitamins
other
they
stuff.
needed. They get, so you've got
You
to.
get scurvy. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah,
gotta
but you
have-
know what? We put a couple cases of multivitamins on there. We're good. I mean, how many you just get some multivitamins. I think
You're
you're
going to need
good.
some carbs, so you've got to get some sushi rice as well. So a lifetime.
Soylent.
That's interesting.
We'll swing by the Soylent
You know,
factory.
I'd rather die. I'd rather die than drink the Soylent. Honestly, you know what this
Well,
is?
the gas it generates could
This is
power
what I'm
the
dealing
boats.
with. Ian. Here's what I'm dealing with at work. I have made fun of Soylent and these like hipsters who got Trump elected because they drink Soylent and they think they're better than everybody in the country. I opened the refrigerator at work in
It's
our
in there.
office, packed with Soylent. I'm like, who's drinking the Soylent? Austin. Austin is like, well, if I drink Soylent, then I save 55 minutes. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it takes me 90 seconds to drink, and then I save the other 55 minutes of my hour. I can be more productive.
I did not say these things.
I'm making it up. But you do drink Soylent.
I do drink Soylent.
But
I actually don't. I haven't been drinking it lately.
Oh, really?
Because I started doing no carbs, and there's too much.
Too many carbs in it?
Yeah, too many carbs in Soylent.
Why don't they make a non-carb free one
I
or
don't
something?
know.
Oh, because you're trying to do more calories.
The open source Soylent community has invented.
There's an open source Soylent community?
Yeah, because the recipe is open source, and so people fork it and create their own recipes.
Okay.
So there is a
Wait a second.
low carb
They
version.
forked
Yeah, it's an open
Soylent.
source. Yeah, it's an open
Interesting.
source recipe, and so there are also there are tons of different in the open source community different ideas that people have come up with to develop the product in different ways.
The only thing I don't understand about Soylent was since it was in a movie and the movie was owned by somebody, would that person have the trademark Soylent? They never filed for the trademark, but would they have IP protection on it? Because if you tried to make, a Jedi character or an R2-D2 character or even droids, Lucas had trademarked the term droids, Android short droids. And so you can't make a movie called Droids because that's his IP. I just thought for sure that they would have.
I don't know. Maybe it's because
Taken-
it's such a different product category.
Also, maybe because it was the 1970s when the film was done, they just didn't bother to
Didn't
actually
even bother
do that.
thinking about protecting it, or they don't
Yeah.
even know Soylent exists. So Soylent has forked. Have they made an alcoholic Soylent yet?
They don't. They haven't, but they
I know
at
plenty of-
events here in San Francisco they do serve Soylentinis.
This is why Trump's president. This is why Trump's president. Okay, you're part of the problem. This is what happens. Somebody from Middle America who's lost their job and is on the dole and is suffering reads about you people in San Francisco, Austin.
But it's cheaper. It's a $3 meal, so I don't understand why it's perceived as this like.
It's also a
bougie
$3
thing.
meal. A goddamn hamburger. Eat a hamburger and fries like Americans. This is
You think I can
America.
get a
This is
hamburger for
America.
$3?
I was trying to explain Soylent to a French friend, and they're like, people drink it because it allows them more time to get on their work. It's like, so hang on, people over there don't take the full hour for lunch. They don't have a proper meal and
No.
sit and converse with their mates. No, it's what a sad country you live in.
Well, if you think about happiness,
Yeah.
does Soylent make you happy? When you were drinking it, did you ever
Compared
have a
to beef
moment
on
when you were
cruise with
drinking
the
your
night-
Soylent that you were happy?
The
Or
thing
did you
that-
have in your mind, I'm going to be more efficient?
The thing that made me most happy drinking Soylent is the visceral reaction that everyone else has about it.
Oh, so you're trolling.
No, but I just drank it because I liked
you're
it, but
like the Parker
I just don't
Lucky
care. I don't feel super passionate about it, but I am highly amused by
How much did you
everyone
buy?
everyone
How
around
much did you spend on Soylent? Lifetime. $1,000? 500?
500 maybe. Yeah.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
What does it cost per month? $3 each. You drink four a
It's
day.
$3. 4 a day would be, it's 300 calories. So,
Oh, you need to drink 6 a day to really, if you were going to go only
yeah,
Soylent.
I never went only.
The founder
Soylent.
went all Soylent, right? Like that was his
Yeah.
idea. This is why people hate America, or specifically why Americans hate coastal Americans.
I mean, we're going to have a global food crisis in our lifetime, and if they can use algae to make this food
Yeah.
that works, then it's an interesting long-term solution.
I'm literally
when the
don't care
jobs
either
go
way. I
away.
just think it's funny. Like anybody, you eat a protein bar. It's not. It's like kind of it's a liquid protein
same
bar
thing,
in a
yeah.
way. Yeah. So it's just an efficient way when you're grab and go. But it is interesting how just San Francisco, the things that are occurring here are just so close to science fiction.
Yeah, it's getting there. And then what happens here spreads throughout the world. So
I was reading that somebody is taking luxury apartments and putting 4 people into each one, and then it's like a new service or something. So they get a luxury $4,000 or $5,000 one bedroom, but they figure out a way to have 4 young people in the city in it.
Well, you saw that. I don't know if you saw the room posting. Comes back to what you were saying earlier. Somebody was advertising a very small apartment in San Francisco. I think it was about $2,500 a month, and it had the shower and the bar and the toilet in the kitchen, and then room for one
Yeah.
bed and one chair, and that was it.
That was like Leanne's apartment when I was in New York.
Yeah,
She had
it's not a
Leanne's
way to live. It's-
I am really into these modular homes. I think Blockable, which went through our incubator, these like sort of they used to call them prefab, but they're just more modular.
Yep.
Where you can put 1 or 2 of them on a lot, then you add 1 or 2 and they plug together like Legos. Like that's going to be the future.
Yep.
We've got a lot of shipping containers waiting to be used.
Well, the problem with the shipping containers is who wants to live in metal and they're not conducive to being easy to move around and they're not customizable. And you have to do so much work to make a shipping container livable and they're so heavy that you might as well just start with a factory from the bottom up like Tesla did and just build with raw materials.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's a clever idea if a shipping container is sitting on your lot.
Steam cleaned and it's there. And
if a nice clean one is in your backyard already, you can build off of that. But to have one carried to your backyard for $15,000, you might as well just start with a wooden frame for $5,000 and build out, customize what you want. All right, this has been an amazing episode. Thank you, Squarespace. Thank you, Iain. Thank you, Scott Walker. Thank you, Austin. You did a good job, Austin. Very good. No, I mean, it wasn't like Lon level, but it was, Lon has a little more. You can work with Lon on your delivery.
Yeah, I'll just keep watching the old Lon tapes.
Watch the Lon tapes. It's like the basement tapes, the Lon tapes. All right, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.